What it do, YouTube? It's your Bolo Trady. I'm back with another video, and today I'm going to be talking about Colin Cowherd's top 20 players in the last 20 years. So it was between 2002 through 2022. But before I get started with this video, make sure y'all like, subscribe to my channel, my first channel, and subscribe to my second channel as well. My link's down below in the description box. And let's get started with this video. I already know Colin's gonna say a lot of bullshit, so yep, get started.
Players over the last 20 years. Here's our criteria: winning, awards, star power, and influence. Top.
So he's talking about influence and awards and star power. I kind of agree with him. So this type of criteria, I'm finna listen to what he has to say about this criteria.
20, last 20. Here we go. It's not easy to have influence tucked in the Pacific Northwest, but Damian Lillard is number 20. The second player in NBA history to have two series-clinching buzzer beaters, Michael Jordan is the other. Over the last 20
Those buzzer beaters are dead ass is why he's in these conversations. Like for real.
years, only 8 players on this list have averaged more points per game. A shoe line, a music career. Anybody who's just known by one name also makes the list. Dame at 20.
Hold on, man. So we're talking about fucking rap music that people don't even listen to, and shoes, and he goes by one name, Dame. What the hell does that even mean? Explain that. Already starting off.
Number 19, Jason Kidd. On a short list with Magic Johnson as one of the great passers in league history. A 10-time All-Star, although only 6 fit into our 20-year criteria. 3 NBA Finals, including leading the Mavs along with Dirk Nowitzki to a shocking win over Miami. Jason Kidd at number 19.
All right, Jason Kidd. I don't got a real problem with this because he deserved to be here. I got him at 19 as well. If I had to make a mid list like this, that's exactly where he should be at. That's perfect. Like, he went to 2 finals even though the East was weak. Hey, can't take that away from his resume. He finished top 10 MVP voting a couple of times. His impact was incredible. He was able to help the Mavericks win the title in 2011. So he deserved to be on this list.
At number 18, James Harden.
Wow.
He doesn't give you much in terms of leadership or defense, but he's one of the great pure scorers in the last 20 years. In fact, he has the second most threes made in that time. An MVP and a 10-time All-Star. To illustrate how prolific James Harden is, the NBA recently changed a rule to hinder Harden's number 1 offensive move. James Harden at 18.
Okay. James Harden at 18, I think that's a little disrespectful because we're talking about James Harden here. 3-time scoring champion. All those averaging 30 points a game. Over 30 points a game, I might add. One of those seasons averaging 36 a game. Won the MVP. And Harden's arguably the greatest player to never win a championship. Like, his peak is insane. You can say what you want about the foul baiting. He was still one of the greatest scorers ever. Top 5, arguably. And he's obviously up there one of the greatest ISO scorers, if he's not. So he influenced that as well. So I think James should be a little bit higher. Okay, we're going to commercial break.
Advertising on YouTube helps me reach engaged customers like Jenna, who's been searching for landscapers on Google.
Of course, this sorry ass computer. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, it's just my internet is so fucking ass.
Number 17, Steve Nash.
All right, Steve.
Nash won 2 MVPs, an 8-time All-Star, and nobody's averaged more assists over the last 20 years on this list than Steve Nash. Those Phoenix run-and-gun teams set the table for the Golden State Warriors. They were the Microsoft to the Warriors being Apple. He makes our list at number 17.
Okay. Well, I don't got no real problem with this, even though I don't got him over James Harden, in my opinion. But Steve Nash, I think he deserves to be here. His influence, like you said, was incredible. At those 7 seconds or less offense, that definitely influenced the whole NBA. And his impact was amazing. 2-time MVP. So, yeah, Steve Nash deserves to be on this list. Yep.
Coming in at 16, Draymond Green.
Whoa.
3 titles, 4 times an NBA All-Star, including a Defensive Player of the Year. Nobody currently in the NBA is a greater example of basketball being more than just points than Green. A catalyst for years with the Warriors in, before, during, and after their dynasty. It should also be noted, he hosts the greatest sports podcast in America on my network. Draymond at 16.
Draymond at 16. Draymond over James Harden? Really? Look, Draymond, he's one of the greatest players of all time. He should have been in our top 75 players list. But having him over James Harden is Steve Nash? Hell, even Jason Kidd. Hell no. Draymond's one of the greatest defenders of all time. But his benefit was obviously playing with Stephen Clay and KD. He wasn't no offensive juggernaut. He was good on defense, but he ain't like James on offense. And Draymond, as good as he is, what is he able to do as a number 1 option? He was a number 3 or 4 option. And you got him over James Harden solely because of championships? No. No.
Coming in at 15, Dirk Nowitzki, who scored more points than any international player ever in the NBA. He also led perhaps the greatest upset in the last 20 years in the NBA Finals. That 2011 Finals run included a sweep of the defending champion Lakers, beating Oklahoma City with Harden, KD, and Westbrook, and then shocking LeBron, Wade, and Bosh in the finals. A 14-time All-Star at number 15, always well-liked.
Okay, look, I think this is a little bit too low. Because if you're talking about influence, Dirk's name has definitely got to be up there. He influenced the big men shooting threes. That's the reason why you see guys like Porzingis, Embiid, Jokic, all those guys, Cat, all those guys shooting threes. And most of that influence even came to Dirk. KD said it himself. He modeled some of this game from Dirk, especially that post fadeaway. And he's an NBA champion, one of the greatest ring, arguably the greatest ring of all time. People didn't expect him to get that ring. I got Dirk a little bit higher. I arguably got him in my top 10. To be honest. Scratch that. I got him on my top 10. Well, let's see who's next. And I can tell from that silhouette who's next. And I don't get why he's over Dirk. So let's see why he's better. I already know who that is.
Dirk Nowitzki. At number 14, if you loved hoops, you loved Allen Iverson.
Of course.
A reminder, though, his MVP was out of our 20-year window. That's why he's a couple.
Hold on. If you're saying that his 2001 season that people love to gasp up, then why is he over Dirk? Why is he over James Harden? Hell, why is he over Steve Nash? If you're excluding his MVP season and his finals run in 2001, which is the biggest part of his career. Because like I said, it's 2002 through 2022. And all that shit happened in 2001. So that don't make no sense. Explain yourself, Colin.
couple of spots lower, but he still remains iconic. Two-time scoring champ, two-time steals champ. He was hyper-aggressive, attitude and toughness. When you've been out of the league for over a decade and people still reference one of your press conferences, you make the list.
What the hell does that even mean? What does that mean? Because people are saying practice, not a game. Now, not a game that I love to play. We talking about practice, man. Practice. What type of explanation was that? That lame criteria.
Number 13, Paul Pierce, who I consider the most underrated NBA player of the last 2 decades. Using the wheelchair was the Willis Reed moment of his era. He was a one-time champ and a one-time finals MVP where he went toe-to-toe and out-dueled Kobe Bryant. Over the last 20 years, only 8 men have scored more points on this list. Paul Pierce at 13.
Okay, look, Paul Pierce, I agree with him. Definitely one of the most underrated players of all time. He definitely has a clutch gene. He had a lot of big shots back in the days. But most of his career, sure, he was a great scorer and all, but he mostly benefited on playing with other great players, like Kevin Garnett. We all know he was the best player on those Boston Celtics teams. Like, let's be real. It wasn't Paul Pierce. You can even go to that finals run that they had in 2008 where they won. He was still not the best player, even though he won finals MVP. Some argue KG or Ray Allen should have won. But hey, Paul Pierce got it. And that's why he's on the list. But in my opinion, I don't got him over James Harden or Steve Nash. Because if you take off that title, he should probably be in the top 20. But hey, I still got him in my top 20, but I don't got him that high.
Number 12, he can drive us crazy, but while he's doing it, he'll drive around you and score. It's Kyrie Irving.
No. This is so bad. Oh.
Who made one of the biggest shots in NBA history and certainly in the last 20 years. That was 2016 against the Warriors in Game 7. He's also perhaps the best small closer either hand in league history. A 7-time All-Star and an NBA champ, the often infuriating Kyrie Irving.
All right, let me tell you people why this is so dumb. Look, Kyrie's my favorite player of all time in the league right now. But have him over guys like James Harden, Dirk, especially Dirk, that's beyond disrespectful. At 12, and that championship, like I said, is the only thing that's keeping Kyrie up. Like, what has Kyrie done as the number 1 option? Hell, what has he done as the number 2 option outside of LeBron? All he does is get hurt, personal reasons, and he's choked. Like, what has he done? Like, he's not even supposed to be over AI or Steve Nash or James Harden. Like, what has he even done as a number 1 option? Hell, I don't even think he's over Westbrook. I know Westbrook didn't make this list. How far is their legacies from? Russell Westbrook is an MVP, and he's not on this list. But Kyrie is, grow up. No disrespect, but grow up.
At 12. At 11, Kawhi Leonard. Okay, he doesn't talk much or at all, but is there a better get a basket, get a stop guy in the last several years? 2 championships, and 2 finals MVPs. He would be higher on the list if he just simply played more games. He also has something I didn't know before making this list. He has the highest winning percentage of every great player over the last 20 years. Soft-spoken and rarely speaking Kawhi Leonard.
Okay, I kind of agree with this. Unlike Kyrie, but Kawhi at number 11, I think that's a perfect spot for him because Kawhi's resume speaks for itself. 2-time champion, 2-time Finals MVP, had one of the greatest playoff runs in NBA history with the Raptors, leading them to their first championship. 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. You could argue Kawhi is the greatest wing defender of all time. Like the way offensive players play right now, you could argue that Kawhi is the best wing defender ever. Because what he was able to do, especially with the Spurs, you couple in with all defensive teams, all NBA teams. Yeah, Kawhi deserves a spot on this list.
At 11. At number 10, Chris Paul. What? You didn't think he'd make my top 10? A 12-time All-Star and the best pure point guard in some time. He's won everywhere he's played. The consummate pro. He won in New Orleans, Clippers, Rockets, Suns, all setting franchise records. Old school tough and new school smart. He's so famous, his alter ego is also famous. Cliff Paul.
Hold up. All right, glad this is on the ad. Well, wait until this shit gets done right fast, because I got some shit to explain about this. So yeah, internet, stop me for a second, please. That's so dumb. Cliff Paul?
Chris Paul, my guy.
Cliff Paul? That's the reason why he's high on this list. And look, Chris Paul, he could be close here. He could be belong in this tier, but not in my top 10. No. He's not over Dirk. Like, come on. Chris Paul is a great player. One of the greatest point guards of all time. Pure. And sure, he won wherever he goes, but did he win a championship? All I see is multiple 2-0 leads that he's blown, especially in the finals. So, do you think he's over Dirk? I don't think so. I don't even think he's over Kawhi, to be honest. And those guys prove that they can step up in those big moments. Sure, Dirk had his shortcomings, but he redeemed himself. Kawhi as well. But Chris Paul at number 10? No. All right, let's move on to the next person.
10.
I can tell who that is.
At number 9, Giannis. Simply put, he's so great, he missed the first 11 years of our timeline and still makes it. A champ and a finals MVP, his 50 points to win the title last year is the most ever in a closeout final game in league history. Giannis was able to bring a championship to small market Milwaukee. The last player to do that, the great Lou Alcindor. Currently in the league, he is usually the best offensive closer and best defensive player in the game. Giannis's body and game are completely unique. He's our new LeBron.
Okay. Giannis, I think he deserves to be in the top 10 because, like he said, Giannis only has like 11 years coming in, like he said, and Giannis only been good for like 6 years, and what he's been able to accomplish is just insane. Multiple All-NBA teams, 4 of them being first team, Defensive Player of the Year, all defensive teams, 2-time MVP, and of course, having one of the greatest closeout games in NBA history, dropping 50 points to secure his first title and the finals MVP. So yeah, Giannis, he definitely deserves a spot on his list.
Number 8, Kevin Garnett. The only thing better than one-name players are initial players. Like Damian Lillard, it's hard to be a superstar in Minnesota. Kevin was an NBA champ with the Celtics, a one-time MVP, and also a Defensive Player of the Year. Not only an 11-time All-Star, but but 7 times an all-defensive player. He was intimidating, a trash talker, a shutdown defender, a get-a-basket guy. KG was the kind of personality you could throw a team on his shoulders. It's what the Celtics did, and it paid dividends. KG at 8. Number 7.
Okay. Yeah, KG is another player I think should be in the top 10. But I kind of got Giannis over him due to the fact that KG in his prime was missing the playoffs. Even though I'm not saying it's his fault or nothing. But Giannis accomplished more than what KG accomplished in his career. They got the same amount of championships, but Giannis got the Finals MVP. KG doesn't got that. Giannis got 2 MVPs. KG only got 1, and they both got Defensive Player of the Years. So Giannis arguably got more accomplishments. You could argue Giannis is better. In my opinion, I think he is. But KG, he definitely deserved to be on this list. One of the greatest peaks of all time. Easily a top 10 peak. And that's the reason why he's in the top 10.
Just ahead of KG is Tim Duncan.
Wow.
The resume of a champion, the personality of an accountant. He single-handedly can make an NBA Finals boring. But what a monster right out of college. Duncan, like KG, could dominate the boards. He was a 12-time All-Star, a 5-time first-team All-Defensive player. And over the last 20 years, only one other player had a higher winning percentage. He was at the beginning, middle, and end of the Spurs dynasty, the Hall of Famer Tim Duncan at 7.
Okay. This is kind of crazy. Tim Duncan at number 7? That's a little too low. I kind of expect Duncan to be in the top 5 at least. At least top 5. In my opinion, you could argue he's the second best player in this 20 years. Because that's a crazy ass resume. Because we're excluded the 1999 season, but he still got 4 titles, 2 Finals MVPs, had one of the greatest series of all time in 2003 against the Nets, where he was doing everything on offense and defense. Like he was basically backpacking that Spurs team. Because I believe Tony Parker was a rookie, a sophomore. Ginobili was a rookie, and they didn't even play that well whatsoever. And his second best player was who? Steven Jackson. And David Robinson was old. So Tim Duncan kind of was doing a little bit of backpacking. So yeah, Tim Duncan at number 7 is kind of disrespectful.
At 6, Dwayne Wade.
Over Tim?
Has there ever been a player that's more popular in a single city than D. Wade? Dwayne was a 3-time champ and a 1-time Finals MVP. Only 6'4".
Look, I like D. Wade, pause, but he's not over Tim. Like D. Wade, his peak is incredible too. But when you go toward the end of their careers, D. Wade was dealing with injuries. Meanwhile, Tim Duncan, sure he wasn't the same player like he was, but he was still giving you great defense. That's why his longevity is great. He was able to lead the Spurs to 2 more finals and win one. Meanwhile, D. Wade was suffering injuries. And longevity, Tim Duncan clears him. But I think
Wade had the physicality and presence of a much bigger player. Over 20 years, he made 13 All-Star teams. He leads Miami in virtually every crucial category in franchise history. He also had the ability to recruit stars. They respected him so much, from Shaq to LeBron. D. Wade at 6. Number 5, the incredibly gifted Kevin Durant.
That's what I was expecting.
A unique and sometimes sensitive personality, he is an all-time shot maker. I believe he's one of the only players ever that would beat Michael Jordan in a game of one-on-one. KD was a two-time NBA champ, a two-time Finals MVP, and a one-time MVP. The 2017 Warriors team was arguably the best of the last 20 years. He's averaged over 27 points over the last 2 decades, the highest average on this list. And you always feel like if he wanted to, he could score even more. Kevin Durant at 5.
Okay, look. KD's an amazing player. All-time great scorer. But him over Tim Duncan is disrespectful. Like, for real, disrespectful. Because look, KD, you could argue is a better scorer than Tim. But what has KD done that Tim has done, that KD hasn't done? Tim Duncan is early in his career, was backpacking the Spurs. I'm not even including the 99 season. I'm talking about 2003, like I said, where none of his teammates didn't really play that great. He was carrying them on offense and defense. And in 2005, sure, you could say he had help, but he was still the best player on that team. And in 2003, he even had an all-NBA caliber player on that team. He still won the title. That's disrespectful for a guy like Tim Duncan. And you got Kevin Durant higher than Tim Duncan. And like I said, KD is an all-time great player. But what has KD done outside of those Golden State Warriors time? I could go year by year. Sure, KD got to the finals in 2012 with the Thunder, but number one, he lost. Then in 2014, he underperformed against the Spurs. He got outplayed by guess who in Game 6? Tim Duncan in overtime. Duncan had like 7 points and KD had 0. I could go to 2016 where he blew a 3-1 lead to the exact same team he joined. And then he goes to Golden State, wins his little 2 rings and his 2 finals MVPs. And then he dips. He chokes against the Celtics, getting swept. Like, that's my point. To put him over Tim Duncan is disrespectful. For real. It's disrespectful. To put a guy that won his 2 rings on stacked ass rosters over a guy that proved that he doesn't need a stacked deck to win. And he was kind of carrying that team. That's disrespectful. Disrespectful. For real. It's disrespectful to have KD over Tim Duncan. It's disrespectful. Fucking stupid.
Number 4, Shaq. You see him now is a funny TV personality. He was no joke when he played. An unstoppable force. A 2-time champ. A finals MVP. The Kobe-Shaq dynasty was an all-timer. He does now more endorsements than any living active or inactive player. A Hall of Famer and a jersey retired with both the Lakers and the Heat. Has there ever been a more physically dominant player than Shaquille O'Neal? I don't think so. Shaq, high on the list at number 4.
Okay. I don't got a real problem with Shaq being in the top 5. But the only gripe that I have is that you're talking about 2002 through 2022. And we're excluding all of Shaq's years. His best years, I might add. In 2000, where he had arguably the greatest finals performance ever, at his peak was just insane. And then you go to 2001, where him and Kobe just ran through the Western Conference, where they went 16-1. Or was it 15-1? My fault. 15-1. That only loss came to the Sixers, obviously, but they swept the entire Western Conference. Him and Kobe just went ballistic. So we're excluding all of that. And 2002 was his last 3-peat with the Lakers. So you could argue that he shouldn't be over Tim Duncan. Like, in my personal opinion. Sure, Shaq was provided in Miami, but he wasn't the same player. In his last championship that he won, he was obviously not the best player. It was D Wade. And D Wade kind of backpacked him to that title in 2006. Because Shaq only averaged like 13 a game in that series. So, yeah, you could argue that he shouldn't be over Tim Duncan. But Shaq's resume is still great. But I don't got him over Tim Duncan in the last 20 years.
Number 3, he changed the game at every level.
Steph Curry.
When advertising on YouTube, I know that making an authentic video with a clear call to action is the key to getting results. That's why YouTube offers.
I wait this shitty ass Wi-Fi to come. Like I said, yeah, I don't think Shaq's over Tim Duncan if you're excluding the 2000 and 2001 seasons that were arguably Shaq's best years. Meanwhile, Tim Duncan was able to provide at an elite level. And you can even look at their longevities. Towards the end of Shaq's career, he was dealing with injuries. Meanwhile, Tim Duncan, like I said, was still giving you great defense. And he was able to lead the team to a title, or help lead the team to a title. So, yeah, I don't think Shaq should be over Tim Duncan. Just personally. And my internet is still acting all dog shitty. Hate this fucking internet. All right, Steph Curry.
Steph Curry. AAU, high school, college pros. Shots you would have been benched for, you take now because of Steph Curry. 3 rings, multiple-time MVP. In fact, the only unanimous MVP in league history. An argument to be made. Ball handling and shooting, he's the best we've ever had. He's also a selfless leader, an incredibly high basketball IQ, and has led a dynasty in the last decade. Steph Curry, one of my faves at 3.
Okay, Colin added 4 NBA titles and a Finals MVP onto his resume. And Steph Curry, I think this is not a bad spot for him because his accomplishments speak for themselves. 4-time NBA champion, a Finals MVP, just won it. 2-time MVP, one of those seasons being unanimous. All-Star Game MVP. Like, his resume speaks for itself. Definitely a top 10 player of all time, in my personal opinion.
3. At number 2, the closest thing we've ever seen to Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. 3 rings with 2 different great centers. He was a multiple-time Finals MVP, 8-time All-Defense, 2-time scoring champ. Kobe made All-NBA first team 11 times. He was even more artistic than Jordan. Each time down the floor, one of the most creative shot makers in league history held you captive. So dominant in all-star games, the NBA named the MVP of that game after Kobe. Like Jordan, he was corporate but cool, chill but dynamic, everything you needed him to be in the biggest moments. And in typical Kobe fashion, his last game, he dropped 60. Always a flair for the dramatic. When you close your eyes and think of Kobe Bryant, it's one of the coolest games and creative of all time. Truly an artist. The legend, Kobe Bryant at night.
Okay, I think Kobe should be perfect right here. Like you said, 3-time NBA champion, 2-time Finals MVP. So yeah, if you got Kobe at number 2, I ain't gonna be mad. That's your list, and it's okay with me. But him and Tim Duncan are kind of neck and neck. Like, you could argue each or is great. In my opinion, I think Duncan's greater than Kobe. In my personal opinion. Because, like I said, we're excluding Kobe's first 2 titles that he won in 2000, 2001. Especially in 2001, where he had arguably the greatest Robin performance of all time. But he still got his 2 titles without Shaq, along with the 2 Finals MVPs. So, yeah. You could argue that Kobe should be at number 2. But in my opinion, I think Duncan should be at number 2. But like I said, if you got Kobe at 2, make your own list.
Number 2. And number 1, is there any question? It's LeBron James.
Come on, man.
LeBron has 4 MVPs, 4 NBA titles, and 4 Finals MVPs, 18 All-Star appearances over the last 2 decades. The most points combined between regular season and the playoffs. The Swiss Army knife of my life in pro basketball. Ball handling, scoring, defense, leadership, vertical game, horizontal game. Nobody's ever been quite like LeBron. When LeBron held the decision, it was controversial, but it empowered players and mobility, and the league and its stars have never looked back. More than ever, players have a say in their careers, and they can thank the king for that. Every 10 to 20 years, a player will come into the NBA, and there's nobody else you can compare him to. Arguably the greatest player and most versatile player in the history of this sport on our planet. LeBron James, the king.
Like, that shouldn't be no debate. Like, that shouldn't even be no debate. The king, LeBron James, should be at number 1. If anybody got a problem with that, please, you don't know basketball. Go slap yourself and make sure it makes sense. Like, who else? It's LeBron James at number 1. And if anybody got a problem with it, like I said, please, for the love of God, slap yourself so hard in the face that could probably knock some sense out of you. And if that ain't the case, punch yourself. If you got a problem with LeBron being number 1 on this list. Like, this should be unanimous.
At number 1. There it is. Our top 20 NBA stars.
Okay. There's the top 20 right there. As y'all can see, obviously LeBron at number 1, Kobe at number 2, Steph at number 3, Shaq at number 4, KD at number 5, D-Wade 6, 7 Tim Duncan, 8 KG, 9 Giannis, 10 CP3, 11 Kawhi, 12 Kyrie, 13 Paul Pierce, 14 Allen Iverson, 15 Dirk, 16 Draymond, 17 Steve Nash, 18 James Harden, 19 Jason Kidd, and 20 Damian Lillard. Now look, this list sucks. Because I got a lot of gripe. Number 1, my first gripe is that Draymond Green is not over James Harden, not over Steve Nash, not over Jason Kidd, and he's not even better than Dame. And I don't even think Dame should be on this list. Like, for real. And I'm surprised that Westbrook didn't get on the list. Like, that's kind of, no, matter of fact, that is disrespectful to not put Westbrook on this list. Westbrook is an NBA MVP, had one of the greatest MVP seasons of all time. Averaged a triple-double for 3 straight years. Is the triple-double king. He's not higher on the list. That's disrespectful. And another thing is that Kevin Durant's over Tim Duncan is also disrespectful, like I said. The hell, what about T-Mac? Well, you could argue T-Mac should be on his list, but I could take T-Mac over Dame. Like, for real. Their careers are kind of similar. Even though Dame got the first round, T-Mac hasn't. Their careers are almost similar. Like, Dame hasn't done enough to deserve a spot on his list. Just because of one name and shoes and music career to put him over Westbrook. Whew, is beyond disrespectful. Hell, I don't even think Jason Kidd's over Westbrook, to be honest. So yeah, I got a lot of gripe with this video, but what did y'all think? Make sure y'all like, subscribe to my channel, and drop your list down below. This your boy Lil Trady signing out. Subscribe. Peace.